The I Ching is a living transmission of the divine, of consciousness. The I Ching, the Book of Change, is a map of the 64 changing cosmic frequencies of life, of consciousness. This is an ancient wisdom from thousands of years ago that was used to track and harmonize with the forces of nature in order to guide the people, an empire, a civilization. In the 1960s, humanity discovered the 64 genetic codons, our DNA. Magically, they have the same mathematical formula, the same exact geometry as the 64 I Chings. Every 6 days, the sun activates one of these 64 I Ching frequencies, which activates within us a corresponding genetic codon, which stimulates our consciousness, the theme of the life. When we enter into contemplation with a particular I Ching, especially with the I Ching the sun activates each week, then life sends us the experiences we need to unlock the shadow, which raises our vibration and awakens the divine within. The intention of this video is to serve you in the highest blessed way. This is abstract energy of sensing, so receive this message with your heart and body. This week, our beautiful sun, the sun within us, our consciousness, the life, is activating the 54th I Ching. The transformational path of this frequency moves us from the shadow of greed to the highest vibration of ascension, and it's through the path of aspiration. Here in this path of transformation, there are powerful pieces of wisdom, advice for seekers of the great truth. This 54th I Ching is part of the codon ring of seeking, which represents one of the 6 classical pathways to transcendence, to the God within. There is much confusion because of these varied approaches. As we ascend the ladder of consciousness, we begin a spiritual path of one form or another. This 54th I Ching can clarify which path we choose, which is energetically right for us. Other side of this 54th I Ching is the shadow of greed, the energy of hunger, of the survival of the fittest, the will to power, the driving force in all human beings, the driving ambition to reach the highest possible position in life. The Chinese name this hexagram, this frequency, the marrying maiden, the concubine that rises up in the hierarchy through sleeping her way to the top until she finally gets to become the empress. We can see this greed still at work in the world, in the developing world and in the so-called developed world. Free trade in the modern capitalist approach, it carries the full expression of this same energy. You know, the more money you have, the higher you can rise in the hierarchy. But the real question is, at what cost? Our whole approach is based on rising up. We say to ourselves, I just need to earn enough money so I can relax and do the things I love, or start my spiritual path, or get that house on the beach or the mountains, or start my center, whatever it is. That very attitude, although it's very human and seemingly harmless, it has within it the seed of greed. Greed is when you put yourself first. You put your well-being before others. Now you may say, that's logical. If I'm not healthy, how can I help others? I'm not saying it's not okay. It's completely okay. It's where the journey begins, because it also keeps us in a state of lack. Because poverty is not just financial. It's relational, it's spiritual, and it's emotional. The dilemma of the 54th I Ching is the dilemma of egotism. Egotism is an uncomfortable word for most. Egotism follows us all the way through the many layers of the shadow. Are you doing this or that for yourself? Is that okay? Should I feel guilty? These are the questions of the 54th I Ching shadow. Every I Ching is simply a mirror. That is the wisdom. You look in the mirror and you see the patterns playing out. The journey always begins with the ego. I am, I need, I want. For example, love. We're the most greedy in love. We taste that love and we want more, so we pursue it, and then it vanishes, so we try another, and another, and another, and then we blame the other when they can't deliver exactly the way we want it delivered, and so the mess continues. So watch the ego and don't try to do anything about it. That's also the ego, being greedy by being beyond the ego. It's a trap. All we could do is observe it and see the patterns driving us. And then we could be honest. And then we can see clearly that our greed is because of a deep lack inside, a deep disconnect, a deep loss of unity. That seeing can propel a breakthrough. And still the greed continues. It drives us. It's the fuel that takes us, that pushes us upward. The best thing is to see it for what it is, to be honest, as you will see that your search for fulfillment, love, money, or anything on the outside is never, ever, ever going to fill the deep hole that we have on the inside. Nothing will stop the ache, nothing externally, and sooner or later you will have to turn your awareness inwards, and this can take many, many lifetimes. When the turning comes, then things become interesting. Our egotism is not a bad thing. You have to see it for what it is. It's simply fuel. As fuel, it has a use. But without awareness, we don't refine that fuel. We don't leave the trap of the urges to find fulfillment. The bottom line, the ego isn't the enemy. It's the rocket that one day launches us into our inner space of aspirations. The 54th gift, the way to alchemize the shadow and raise the vibration. Aspirations. A beautiful gift. To use the energy, the fuel of our greed, to propel us to higher purpose and visions of life and the world. Aspiration is like inspiration, as they share the same root, the Latin word spiro, I breathe. So we breathe in the fuel of greed and begin to transform it inside us. We begin to refine the fuel so it could take us higher and further. Aspiration is a step up from ambition. Ambition is for a particular goal for the future, whereas aspiration is wider. To aspire is to seek something higher. We don't have to know what it is, but we sense it exists, so we pursue it. Aspiration is rooted in self-honesty. We have to see the will for power at work within us. There is a spark inside us that seeks that which is higher, the evolutionary drive to go further. The programming partner of the 54th I Ching is the 53rd I Ching, which is the shadow of immaturity and the gift of expansion. Immaturity doesn't allow us to expand. We simply stay in the pattern of greed. We may expand our business or our empire, but we never expand our consciousness. So we stay trapped in the endless cycle of greed. And we see that with business. People become addicted to earning more money. More and more and more. And why? What can you do with all that money? But we go on. A new car, a new house, a new wife, a new husband. But at the gift frequency, we begin to mature. We realize that it's all pointless. And then we ask ourselves the great question, how can I serve my fellow human? How can I serve life? And that's the core of aspiration, to be of service. This question cuts through egotism instantly, which renews our approach to life. All the skills and drives that the 54th shadow has learnt can now be put to higher use. And the 54th gift is all about raising our consciousness. The same energy of greed gets fed back inside, and we begin to desire the higher states. And this is the healthier use for this energy. And so we begin a committed spiritual path, and we have a lot to learn at the gift vibration. When we look at the codon ring of seeking, we see the various pathways of seeking can take. Here with the 54th and 53rd, they represent the path of effort. So you may find a technique, teaching, or teacher, and you pour all that greed energy into higher purpose. It takes commitment and perseverance, but the 54th I Ching has this in spades. It's driven by the will of power, the most awesome force in the universe. And on the other side of seeking, we have the 52nd and 58th I Ching. They represent the yin path to realization. Just sitting and watching, just allowing the energy to move wherever it wishes. This is a very different path from active seeking. And then we have the 15th and the 39th I Ching. The 15th pathway is of service and love, to serve humanity, to follow one's heart. The 39th is the Zen path, the non-dual approach that just uses awareness to cut right through the illusion. All very different paths that lead to the truth, which creates the confusion for seekers of truth. I wanted to share them all so you could see more clearly what the 54th path is about. The most natural path for this frequency will always be the path with many layers and levels, an alchemical path in which the base instincts are transformed into higher aspirations, which takes time and effort, which the 54th has these qualities. This is the path of ascension, of the gradual refinement of our essence, and a vital part of the 54th frequency journey is to master the material realm. The 54th gift has to take the material realm with it on its journey. You can't only be a spiritual person with this I Ching. You have to also be worldly. You have to move through the worldly dimensions. And this could be a tricky thing for some. The problem is we're always looking for a shortcut. It's greed, always looking for a bargain. Greed makes us so crazy that we do things before we're ready. So part of the journey is making mistakes and trying paths that don't suit us, paths that don't get us anywhere. The 54th gift is to elevate oneself and others, to bring the mystical into the mundane, to give others a vision of a higher reality of the world, of love and a higher potential. This is a gift especially designed for those who feel trapped in the world of form, those beings that are stuck in a life with no meaning or purpose, lives with compromises and misery. If you have the 54th I Ching in your energetic profile, these are your people. These are the people who need you the most to bring hope, radiance, and possibility into the lives of others. That is your service. That is your way towards higher dimensions. 54th city, the highest vibration, ascension. The intensity of your longing purifies you ever so slowly. We have such deep wounds. We don't just carry our karma, but the karma of the whole. And all that has to be alchemized, be transformed from within. The process of ascension concerns the highest level of refinement, and each step is so important. You can't skip a step. Every difficult experience that life brings must be passed through and transformed inside your heart. Ascension doesn't just mean you reach a higher state of consciousness. It's more. It's having the physical capacity to physically ascend to the higher realms. We all have the capabilities to transcend this reality. Someone who's destined to attain the higher states of purifications possible in a human body. It's to bring an end to death. It's to dissolve into the one, become eternal. I empower you this week to create space, get to higher awareness, notice your thoughts, feel all the sensations fully that come up in the body this week. Shine the light of awareness to greed, to the ego, to the I am, I want, I need. Feel it deeply from within. Breathe into the sensations past the belly. Contemplate, how can I serve my fellow human? How can I serve the life? Be blessed.